Hey, Mr. Harper here. So today's assignment, we're going to learn how to use the paint tools in Scratch, and we're actually going to use that to create a maze. So to start with, you need to open up Scratch, and we're going to click Create. You'll want to make sure you are signed in. That way you can save your work. Otherwise, you're going to have to save your project to your computer, which I'll show you how to do that at the end of this brief lesson. So, since we are going to be designing our maze, we're going to click, instead of clicking Choose Sprite, we're going to hover over this picture of a cat, or Add Sprite button, and we're going to click Paint Tool. Alright, so you definitely want to make sure you are in vector mode. We know we're in vector mode because this says Convert to Bitmap, so we're not going to click that. We're in vector mode, so we're going to leave it just like this. First thing we're going to do is make the walls of our maze by clicking the rectangle tool. We're going to make sure we keep this fill for now, and we're going to click and drag to cover up the whole screen. And once you do that, you should be able to go back, use your select tool, drag it back, make sure it takes up the whole one. Make sure it takes up the whole screen. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to click fill and take away the fill, so there's no fill. And if you click out, it does that. Then we're going to set the X coordinate to 0 and the Y coordinate to 0. And that should take it there. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of make these lines a little thicker so it takes up the whole screen. Like that. And if you don't like the way that looks, you can always hit undo until you get it back to a size that you like. So that's kind of up to you. As long as you can see the border, you're fine. Another way you can do to make sure you see the border, I'll put me over here so I'm kind of out of the way, is you can actually click these line tools and kind of move the lines up so that you have a nice little border. So either way, as long as you have a border in here, you are fine. So now that we have our walls, we can kind of just design our maze, and it doesn't have to be like a tunnel. You can make it any way you want, as long as the cat can kind of move through it, and we'll talk about resizing that cat later. If you want to draw a straight line, if you hold down the Shift key, they'll make it straight. And I'm just going to do this. One thing to keep in mind while you're kind of designing your maze, we're going to want our sprite to kind of start in one area and then have a place for him to reach. So you can always go back and redesign your maze as you get to it, but this will be right now as long as you get at least 3 levels. And so I'm gonna have mine start here. Go back to my line tool. Let's add a couple ways for him to kind of go up and around. And if you want to connect the lines, you can always, if you mess up, you can hit Control Z. If you want to connect your lines, all you got to do is just click and drag. Just click on the line. Okay. If you want to, you can use the select tool, and we can actually select different parts and like kind of move them around. I would recommend you use thicker lines because it's easier to drag, because you'll have to actually click and drag these lines. So right here, move that down. If you got a piece you want to stick together, you can just highlight it and then use the group function, and so that allows me to now move this as one piece. So right here. So we're gonna want 3 different levels, so that means 3 different mazes. So I'm gonna right click and hit duplicate. It gives me another costume, and I can just delete the parts I don't want. And I can do it again. I can start using a oval, drawing some lines to come down. And so how you design your maze is up to you, as long as you have 3 different levels. It should be fine. Okay. So that's pretty much it. I got my costume 1, costume 2. I'm gonna make another level. As detailed as you want. It's kind of up to you. You can be as detailed as you want. You can make it as hard as you want. But you definitely want to put some effort into kind of designing your maze. And just remember, you can always go back and you can make changes later. It doesn't have to be perfect to start with. You can always go back and make changes later. Okay. So after we've done our 3 mazes, we can go back, we can click on our sprite. We're going to want to rename this sprite. We're going to call it player. And I'm going to set its size a little small just to make sure he can fit through. Let's go 30. There we go. And you're going to want to make sure you are renaming your player. I'm going to make this sprite here. I'm going to call this maze, so that as we continue, we can actually be on the same page as we're programming. So we have player, maze, and then I'm going to add a goal sprite. You can paint your own goal sprite or you can use one, but I'm going to use this apple here, and set that size to about 50%. Okay. So it's kind of one thing to kind of keep in mind as you go through and design your maze. So once you have all 3, your player, your maze, and your apple, if you want to go through and redo your levels, you can do that. Just feel free. Just make sure you're on your select tool if you want to move things around. There we go. That makes that a little better level there. This one here looks like it's going to be easy, so let's use this. Let's rotate that down and make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so you kind of want to just make sure you go through and you select the maze. You paint your maze. You can make it any color you want. You can kind of go through. You can play around with your player sprite. You can make it anything you want. Just make sure you have a maze with 3 different levels, and that you rename your 3 sprites. So you should have a player sprite, a maze, and a goal. And I am going to change that from apple to goal. That way we're all on the same page. And feel free to add a backdrop if you want to add a backdrop. I'm going to do a solid color though. There we go. So that's kind of up to you, but please make sure you have at least 3 sprites and you spent some time designing your maze. What we can do is we can actually have someone look at and see who designed the best maze. Alright, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.